Thanks.
I need to hear it from your mouth, right? Anthony Joshua, Jake Paul, is that true?
I mean, there are talks. They jumped the gun a little bit on the news.
Hey.
But, you know, I'm pretty honest with it. Like, AJ was going to have a little run out in December,
I saw that,
right?
yeah.
He's just been offered a run out against Jake Paul for 50 times more money than he was going to get. What do you want him to do? I mean, if he said to me, no, Eddie, I'm not going to do it, I would drive around his house, I'd try and drag him in the car, and I'd take him to sign a contract myself.
Tyson Fury stunned the boxing world when he declared that Jake Paul would flatten Anthony Joshua, an idea so outrageous that it immediately caught fire across social media and every fight forum imaginable.
There's been some talk about possibly Joshua using Jake Paul as a tune-up to fight you. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know about tune-up. I think Jake Paul knocks him out.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Even though nothing has been officially confirmed yet, insiders insist that a Miami matchup between Joshua and Paul is inching toward reality. Paul had originally been tied to a huge fight with Gervonta Davis, but Davis's legal issues forced that entire event to collapse overnight. As the lightweight champion dealt with a lawsuit and a police investigation, Paul had to pivot fast, and somehow the path led him straight to Anthony Joshua, a man far bigger, far stronger, far more experienced, and universally seen as a nightmare matchup for someone who only recently started fighting legitimate boxers.
I get it, right? If someone knocks on your door and says, do you want to fight Jake Paul for 100 million? You're like, you'd be stupid to say no. No, I don't want that 100 million for what would be and will be and should be easy work for AJ. Like, well, why are you going to turn down 100 million? AJ should and could, more should, knock out Jake Paul in a round. Like, if Jake Paul was over here fighting under our British Boxing Board of Control, I don't think it would be a Southern Area Cruiserweight champion. AJ is a former unified heavyweight champion of the world that I still believe is a top 10 heavyweight in the world. Like, AJ should be able to destroy him. AJ is going to be 60 pounds or so bigger than him. AJ hits like a truck. AJ is a better boxer. Like, this is a no contest from the beginning.
Most fight analysts and former pros can't imagine a scenario where Paul leaves the ring without serious damage. Derek Chisora even warned that Paul could end up leaving the arena strapped into an ambulance if he dared to share the ring with Josh. That's been the tone of the conversation everywhere. Almost nobody gives Paul even a sliver of hope. The only shockingly positive voice for Paul came from Tyson Fury, which instantly raised eyebrows because of his long-standing rivalry with Joshua. Fury and Joshua have never been fond of each other, and Fury's claim that Paul could drop Joshua felt as much like a backhand to Joshua as it was praise for Paul. Fury doubled down on the idea that Joshua is past his best years and that Paul, with his recent heavyweight makeover, has upward momentum. People debated whether Fury truly believed what he said or if he was simply using Paul as a tool to poke his great domestic rival, especially since the verbal war between Fury and Joshua has only gotten nastier with time.
Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul, do you think that's going to happen? And if it does, what happens?
Listen, as I keep saying to everybody, man, in the Middle East there's a war happening,
Yeah.
In Europe there's a war happening. In Africa people are dying.
Yeah.
So we need a bit of entertainment, and right now this is a great fight for entertainment for us right now.
A one-round entertainment. Surely that doesn't go past one round.
We never know. You never know. But you know what? As I said yesterday, Jake Paul will be so confident to get into this fight, because after you watch Daniel Dubois fight, you think you can do exactly what Daniel did.
Yeah.
So listen, I'm up for this fight to happen, and I want to see AJ just put the lights out this young man.
100%, come on AJ.
As the possibility of Paul meeting Joshua kept swirling around, Turki Al-Sheikh, the powerful Saudi advisor who has essentially become one of the most influential figures in the sport. During the broadcast of the rematch between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn, he hinted at major plans for Joshua that didn't seem to include Jake Paul at all. Al-Sheikh laid out a long-term roadmap, explaining that Joshua was already lined up for a major fight in Saudi Arabia in February 2026, with an even bigger blockbuster penciled in for September of the same year, possibly one of the biggest events in British boxing history. The possibility of Joshua and Fury finally meeting on British soil was heavily implied, with Al-Sheikh even floating the idea of a major Manchester show in April 2026. Eddie Hearn later emphasized that every decision regarding Joshua now runs through Al-Sheikh. and Hearn made it clear that Joshua is still fixated on reclaiming the heavyweight crown. If Joshua does face Fury next year, it would likely be the fight British fans have spent nearly a decade begging for. And if that truly is the plan, squeezing in a December clash with Jake Paul suddenly looked much more complicated.
With Eddie, we have next year 2 big events here in London. It will be a surprise. We will have Joshua in our country in February. Then there is the big fight, one of the greatest fights in the history of boxing. It will be in London here, maybe in September.
Could it maybe be, finally, Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury, Your Excellency?
I will not give you the answer, but we will have in April here, maybe in Tottenham, big fights. Then in September, we will have me and him surprise for the fans.
That left Paul stuck in a strange limbo, unsure if Joshua would actually be the opponent he had been preparing for, including Nate Diaz and Francis Ngannou. But none of those options carried the seismic shock value that Joshua does. Even Tommy Fury, the only man so far to hand Paul a loss, couldn't believe Joshua was even being mentioned. Tommy has first-hand experience fighting Paul, having beaten him on points back in early 2023. When he heard that Paul might be stepping in front of Joshua, he practically laughed at the idea. From his point of view, if he was able to outbox Paul with relative ease, then someone like Joshua, who spent years as the face of the heavyweight division, would destroy Paul in a matter of seconds. He also believed Paul talking about beating Joshua was delusional, especially since Paul lost to him, and Tommy doesn't pretend to be on Joshua's level. Many fans shared that same sentiment. They argued,
But if I can beat Jake Paul, then excuse my French, what the fuck Anthony Joshua going to do to Jake Paul? I think my dad said that AJ could beat him with his prick, and I completely will back that up. Even if AJ had a broken arm in there, it still wouldn't go past a minute. To be quite honest with you, and as a safety aspect, there's no way that fight can go ahead. At the end of the day, my God, how good does it make me look? He gets beat by Jake Paul. Well, that automatically makes me 2-time heavyweight champion of the world, doesn't it? There's no proper way. I've got to laugh about it. How are we even talking about this? He got his nut boxed off by me a little over 2 years ago. And now all of a sudden, he's talking about fighting Anthony Joshua. It's like, come on. Like, you can't be serious. He can't beat me. And I'm not Anthony Joshua, am I? So it's just ludicrous. It really is.
argued that Joshua stepping into the ring with someone originally preparing to face a lightweight could severely damage his reputation. Joshua's supporters still feel the shock from his knockout loss to Daniel Dubois back in September 2024, which was his last appearance in the ring. A fight with Paul might look like a desperate attempt to rebuild confidence or cash in on an easy win, and people wondered why a former unified heavyweight champion would take on such an unorthodox matchup after more than a year away from the sport.
Jake Paul lost to Tommy Fury. Anthony Joshua cannot box Jake Paul. Horrific. He's dangerous for one, and two, if Jake Paul even lands a glove on him, it just diminishes everything that he's achieved. Jake Paul won't last 2 minutes for me. Never mind Anthony Joshua. It's ridiculous. It's a joke.
If AJ does say yes to going in against Jake Paul, does he harm his legacy?
I would lose a bit of respect for him, and I think a lot of boxing people would as well, to be honest. Why would he box him? 2-time heavyweight champion of the world, one of the best heavyweights the last 20 years, held British boxing on his back. People might say he deserves to box Jake Paul. But why though? Why would he do it?
Did you lose respect from when he fought Ngannou? Did you lose respect from Fury when he fought Ngannou?
Ngannou's a serious fighting man. World champion in mixed martial arts.
It's a worrying thing, potentially, the damage that AJ could do to Jake Paul.
He'll hurt him. Yeah, Jake Paul is a cruiserweight. You wouldn't put the Midlands area cruiserweight champion with Anthony Joshua, so why would you put Jake Paul in there? Just because he's a superstar, whatever. I don't know what he does. What does he do? What is he?
A YouTuber.
It's just not worth it. He's got enough money as it is. Why risk all that for a few more quid? I don't like it. I hope it don't happen. I don't think Anthony Joshua will do it.
Reports began circulating about the financial scramble required to free Joshua from old agreements and line him up as Paul's next opponent. Analyst Rick Glazer suggested that Paul and his company, Most Valuable Promotions, went all out, spending a massive amount of money to get Joshua available, even solving broadcast obstacles that had prevented fighters like Ryan Garcia from participating. According to these whispers, Eddie Hearn privately acknowledged that Paul and MVP had shelled out an enormous payment to allow Joshua onto the Netflix card expected for December. Joshua remained one of the biggest names in British boxing, and his presence would instantly transform the entire event into a global spectacle.
The gun was jumped a little bit and fired early. There have been conversations. We were flirting with the idea of having this little 8-round fight this year. Not with Jake Paul, by the way, because he was fighting Gervonta Davis. You wouldn't have really heard of the person we were going to fight. We received a phone call from Nikisa Baldirian, from MVP, and he said, look, would you want to fight Jake Paul? And I said, listen, I don't want to just be a publicity muppet for you, telling everybody that you offered the fight to Anthony Joshua. If you're serious, we can discuss the numbers, and if there's a chance for us to run out in December and, you know, take care of this bloke and get him out of the boxing world and make several tens of millions in the process, of course, we will consider it. And that's basically where we are at now. Should Jake Paul be fighting Anthony Joshua? No. Is he mad to do it? Yeah. But could it happen? Yes, it could.
Netflix reportedly loved the idea. Even after Joshua's tough loss to Dubois, he remains a massive draw. Hearn reportedly viewed the Netflix spotlight as the perfect opportunity to show the world that Joshua still moves numbers. The date that kept floating around was December 19th, though nothing was fully settled. Negotiations carried on, and both sides understood that the size of the project could sway everything. What did seem definitive was that Joshua wouldn't treat it like a casual exhibition. If he stepped into the ring with Paul, it would be a real, sanctioned heavyweight fight with real consequences. And although some insiders insisted Joshua might still compete before the end of the year, the back and forth between all parties left the matchup hovering between rumor and reality.
Jake Paul, we've seen what he can do, and at a level he's very good. You know, the people who he's been fighting, he's been better than a 58-year-old Mike Tyson. He's better than a 50-year-old Mike Tyson. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., he was better than what he was. But once again, these are guys who aren't current, who aren't, you know, ranked in the world right now at heavyweight, and who weren't Olympic gold medalists, who, you know, this is something completely and utterly different for Jake Paul. And I think, you know, it appears though he lives his life like he can make he's manifesting everything, and he's working up until now.
While all this unfolded, The Guardian added more fuel to the fire by reporting that Joshua and Paul were actually finalizing a deal for a heavyweight showdown in Miami, with Netflix planning to confirm everything at the start of the week. This came after the complete collapse of the Paul vs. Davis event, which had been set for November 14th. Once Davis's partner filed a civil lawsuit accusing him of multiple serious charges, Netflix and Paul's team had no choice but to shut everything down. The accusations included battery, aggravated battery, kidnapping, false imprisonment, and emotional abuse, all tied to an alleged incident at the strip club where she worked. Police confirmed they were investigating, and she was quickly granted a restraining order. MVP and Netflix said they handled the situation carefully and responsibly, but they made it equally clear that Paul would still headline a major show sometime in 2025.
Well, Anthony Joshua was talking about wanting warm-up fights before going into bigger fights, but look, it's prize fighting at the end of the day, and the way that Joshua will see it, and Matchroom and all the team, the fans won't like this, by the way. But
I don't like it
either. I don't like it either. But the way that Joshua will see it is as a money grab. He'll see it as an easy money grab, but at this stage of his career, is it a fight he should be taking? Nah, definitely not.
I don't want to see a man decapitated in Miami
yeah,
in a ring in December.
Listen, and that's what will happen. So
14 months ago, he got beaten up by Daniel Dubois. He's been away from the ring for ages. Now he's stepping in against a YouTuber who's probably wouldn't even win a Southern area title. This affects his legacy, Spencer. I know you're the president of the Anthony Joshua Appreciation Society, but come on, critique this. Shouldn't be having this fight. He can't have this fight and then fight Tyson Fury next.
Do you need a seat, mate? You're getting a little bit excited there.
Why
Maybe just relax a little bit. But no, I'm agreeing with you.
Good.
I don't think I'm agreeing with you.
I'm really shocked.
Can I speak?
I'm really shocked.
Can I speak?
Yes, I'm really shocked.
I'm agreeing with you. I don't think Anthony Joshua should be having this fight at this stage of his career, but not at all. If we're talking about a rebuild and a route back to the world title, Jake Paul shouldn't happen right now.
Paul reacted furiously to Davis's actions, calling him a disgrace and apologizing to the fighters and staff who lost opportunities because of the cancellation. After the fallout, his team began calling every possible opponent, including Terence Crawford and Ryan Garcia. But it was the talks with Joshua that suddenly took center stage, with Joshua hoping to fight again before 2026. Accepting Paul's offer would put him back inside a ring after a 15-month gap. And Netflix, which already scored record-breaking numbers with Paul's fight against Mike Tyson and the massively successful Canelo vs. Crawford broadcast, wanted another monster streaming event to close the year. Their first boxing broadcast, Paul vs. Tyson, shattered streaming records worldwide, pulling in more than 60 million concurrent viewers and dominating television ratings. A fight with Joshua had the potential to reach similar levels, given the bizarre novelty and the massive name value attached to it.
And so I like the challenge. People, that's the criticism. Fight someone in their prime who's a beast. I think people just want to see me lose. That's really what the message is behind it all. And Anthony Joshua is an insane fight, but I want that challenge. We've been DMing back and forth. He wants to make it happen. He called me up, and it's looking very likely for next year.
Throughout all this, Dana White couldn't resist sharing his own take. His rivalry with Paul is long-standing and well-known, but even he admitted he'd watched the fight. White thought the whole idea was terrible for Paul and said it openly, but he also pointed out that the very reason people would tune in is because they want to see Paul finally get flattened. In his mind, fans have waited a long time for someone to shut Paul down decisively, and Joshua, with his size and knockout power, might be the one to do it. He didn't pretend otherwise. If such a bout happens, he'd tune in to see what everyone has been waiting for.
Did you see the fight that's reportedly being worked on for December 19th in Miami?
Did I see the fight being worked on December 19th in Miami?
Yeah.
No.
Do you know which fight I'm talking about?
No.
Fair enough.
Oh, Jesus. That's a bad idea. That's a bad idea. But let me tell you what. A lot of people watch that one.
Will you watch it?
Sure. You know what everybody's tuning in for on that one. I think everybody's going to get what they've finally been waiting for.
As December approaches, everything still feels uncertain. Some sources insist the fight is done, some claim Joshua's long-term plans make it impossible, and others argue that money involved could make anyone reconsider. One thing is clear, if Paul and Joshua eventually do walk into the same ring, it would be one of the strangest, most talked about boxing events of the year, maybe even the decade. In Tyson Fury's wild prediction, the one that sounded so unbelievable would suddenly become the storyline everyone watches unfold.